So we're here to talk to you this morning about how to upgrade vSphere 6.5 with zero downtime. Now some of you say you got to reboot a virtual center, right? Absolutely. So we'll cover that. Standard VMworld disclaimer. If you haven't read it this week, I encourage you to read it very quickly. It's very important. So today for our agenda, we're going to talk quickly about what VMware IT's infrastructure looks like. You may not be surprised, it's a lot like your own, just much bigger. We're going to talk about why we upgraded some of the new features in vSphere 6.5 that we needed internally. We're going to talk about an overview of the upgrade process. With 6.5 we introduced the ability to do a API method of upgrading. We're going to cover that. And we're going to talk about the challenges and the lessons learned. So real quickly, I'm Tom Ralph. I'm one of the senior cloud architects inside of the VMware IT public cloud, or the private cloud. We manage just about everything that you see, hands-on labs, education classes. We manage internal demos, labs like that.
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Gaurav, and I'm from VMware IT Corp team. And my team's primary focus is to design, implement, and support the infrastructure enterprise solutions to host the VMware critical production system that includes ERP, web portals, data analytics, and enterprise collaboration. With me, I have my colleague Suresh.
Hello, good morning. So myself, Suresh, I'm with Corporate IT. I'm a cloud infrastructure administrator. We both are same team. We do the similar work. Thank you.
So a perspective on our side of the private cloud. We have 6 different data centers spread out across the globe, 22 different cloud instances, 2,000 ESX hosts, 60,000 running VMs. Some of you might be interested to know we have 4 petabytes of vSAN storage active running in our cloud, spread across different capacities. We do different things like data encryption on our vSAN. We do stretched vSANs across data centers so that we have good test beds and use the features. As far as services that we offer internally, we do an IaaS service. We do labs as a service for HOL. If you go downstairs and take the labs, this year they're running mostly on vSAN. They're spread out across 4 different data centers. We use IBM SoftLayer data center. We use the Amazon VMC service that we announced on Monday. We can use all of those and bring it together for a seamless lab experience downstairs. We do use VRA, we use Cloud Director, we use VIO, we use Photon Controller. If it's a VMware product, we generally use it to help beta test it, help use it, help kick the tires, help give feedback to developers. So in a private cloud, we have a easy interoperation matrix. So when we have to do a vSphere 6.5 upgrade and we have to figure out, all right, what is my interdependencies? We have to go look and see, does my VNX support vSphere 6.5? Does Puppet support 6.5? In all of these items, we have to check to make sure they support vSphere 6.5 or vSphere 6.6, which is a unique challenge for us because we take beta and alpha code. And when we call up Dell, hey, your servers keep crashing with vSphere.next. They go, what version is that? So we have to figure out how to solve it, in the vSphere code, because Dell's not going to roll out a hot patch just for our beta software that may get changed in the next build. Go ahead.
Okay, it's a high-level architecture diagram of corporate IT. So, as you can see, we have NSX, SRM. So it's easier when one has to upgrade a standalone environment. But when you have a cross vCenter NSX, you have SRM paired site, and you need to plan your upgrade, and it becomes more elaborative, having more VMware solutions and third-party apps. So like an example for NSX, you need to start from the primary node, and then you'll go ahead with the secondaries upgrade. Similarly for SRM, you need to make sure you're protected and the recovery side. You need to upgrade SRM on both of them to make it work properly when you are going with vSphere 6.5. So as you can see for storage, for the SE storage, we are using array-based replication. For NAS, where we have Isilon and VNX, we are using replication through Isilon SyncIQ and VNX replicator. And for the vSAN, which uses the local storage, we are dedicatedly using vSphere replication, which has an improved RPO with 6.5 release. So before I move further, I want to know like how many of us has upgraded to 6.5 already? Oh, quite less number. And how many of you are planning to do in next 3 to 6 months? Wow.
Are you going to go to 6.5 update 0 or update 1? Update 1? Okay.
And I'm sure there will be many people here who are still on 5.5, right? So this presentation will help you actually to understand, plan, and what should be your approach and how you should upgrade your environments to 6.5 without any glitches. So why we upgraded? So there were so many reasons. We had a stable environment running with 6.0. So what was the reason that we upgraded our environment to 6.5? So there were more than one good reason. Like we got the new features and enhancements, we got the better scalability, advanced performance, we got the latest hardware support. So we'll talk about these features in the next few slides. But since our primary focus of this presentation is to talk about how we upgraded, so I'll just cut it short and in very much brief, we'll discuss about the features that we have with 6.5 release. So vSphere 6.5, you know that we got a vCenter Server Appliance, which is a Photon-based OS. It's a Linux-based virtualized optimized operating system. So with 6.5, we have got massive improvement. Like in a vCenter, you can run 25K of virtual machine while they are powered on. And at the same time, you can have 35,000 of virtual machines registered in it. And if you are using enhanced link mode, this number goes high. Similarly, in VCSA, like if you compare with the vCenter server Windows-based and the vCenter server appliance, you get the 3 times better performance in the server appliance. So the new things that have come with the server appliance, because that's the approach of VMware, that we want people to migrate from Windows vCenter to the server appliance going forward. So with vCenter Server Appliance, you got built-in update manager. So there were many customers when they were doing the upgrade in 6.0. I know they were holding off their migration to the server appliance just because of this last limitation that we had, that update manager was running on Windows OS. So with 6.5, it is a built-in integrated into a vCenter Server Appliance. Similarly, it is an automated process now. So you just, if you are migrating from Windows vCenter to your server appliance, you just need to run the migration assistant tool on your Windows server, and it will automatically migrate all the data from your Windows vCenter to the server appliance 6.5. It has got the improved appliance management, where you can see the database statistic as well in detail, apart from the other compute and other storage things. So along with that, it has got a better boot and the restart times. So earlier, like with Windows, if you're doing the reboots, it takes a lot of time to bring up the services. Now with the vCenter Server Appliance, the API response will be lesser because of the lesser reboot time, so it is less than 5 minutes for you now. So these are the features, like we got the refresh features in the vSphere Flash-based web client this time, so which was missing in 6.0, and along with we got the HTML5 client as well. So we got all these improvements. We got the backup solution as well with 6.5 integrated into it. Now you don't need to rely on the third party or any other VMware solution for taking the backups and restore for your PSC and your vCenter server. So we talk a lot about vSphere HA from, I think, 3.0. We are talking about vSphere HA when it was introduced. But what about the vCenter? Any component breaks on the vCenter or any OS related issue, our management console is not available to us. We don't have any solution. We need to fix it and bring it up before we can actually use our vCenter management console. But this time, VMware has given us one more reason to smile. That's called native vCenter high availability. With native vCenter high availability, it's only available for vCenter server appliance. So if you're using vCenter Windows-based vCenter, it won't work for you.
Who uses vCenter Heartbeat today? Who tried to use it in the past and ran away screaming? This is so much easier to implement. It is click, tell it where you want the new or the cloned appliance to go to. It will deploy it and manage it for you, unlike Heartbeat, where it was you almost had to sacrifice an animal in the data center to get Heartbeat to work properly and continuously.
So it supports both embedded and external PSCs. But you need to make sure that if you're using embedded PSC, the enhanced link mode will not work for you. So it goes two workflows. One is called basic and advanced. With the basic workflow, which is like, it's a simple one, it will automatically it will clone your the active node and create the passive and the witness node for you within the same cluster. It will create the network port for you as well, which will be dedicatedly used for the HA traffic. And if you want a advanced workflow where like many customers would want that, I don't want all the nodes sitting in the same cluster, right? So you can go with the advanced workflow, but it requires manual intervention, like you need to clone manually your passive and the witness node, and you can place them in a different cluster, different vCenter, or even a different data center server as well. So as it requires two network interfaces, so if you are going with the basic one, it will automatically create the other ETH1 network for you, which is a private network for HA traffic, as I told you earlier. So it has got the automatic failover, so you don't need to worry if any component fails on your active node, it will automatically fail over to your passive node, and people will still have access to the vCenter management console. It has got the maintenance mode as well, so no need to worry if you are doing any maintenance patching or anything. You can just go to the maintenance mode and start the maintenance, and it will not automatically think like, okay, something went wrong or I need to fail over. So we got so many things in 6.5, but there is one more thing. There was one more reason why we upgraded to 6.5. Any guesses? Anyone? I already talked about Update Manager for VMware customers. So we are actively involved with the testing of the VMware products in their early stages. So through this testing, we provide the feedback to the product teams and gain the valuable insight of the VMware products. So through that, we make sure that we fixes all the bugs or we raises RFEs with the product teams to make sure the features that are required by the customer that is needed for 6.5 release, they are available before it is GA release for the public. Thank you. So talking about, now we'll go to the upgrade process, like how we planned, what was the approach, and how we went phase by phase for the upgrade of our environment from 6.0 to 6.5. For that, I'll invite my colleague Suresh to talk more about how we upgraded our environment.
Thank you, Gaurav. So now you have seen our complex network, and Gaurav explained what are the features in vSphere 6.5. So now we'll talk about the approach what we had in our environments. So we being the customer we started learning the products and capabilities and understanding how it suits our environment too. And also what we did is we went through on a beta build. So we started using the beta build in our GA environment. So this helped us to gain a confidence and understanding the sequence, how it suits. So we'll talk about that in detail in our upcoming slide. What is the easy way to know the products? Any guesses? Yes. Is it by using it? So we being a customer one, what we did is we downloaded the beta builds on our sandbox environment prior we are going to the GA build. So this helped us to understanding the sequence, how to upgrade and the challenges we are facing in it. So when we do a upgrade on our lab or the test environment, so we'll not see much issues. When we go and do in a bigger environment, so we'll see a lot of challenges. We need to account the scale factor too here. So when we are before going to our production upgrades. The next is we need to keep in mind the previous version history. So we need to see the path, how it suits our newer version. In case if we are using a SRM or NSX or other products, we need to check the path of version which suits for 6.5. So once we got the previous version history, we went through the release notes. So release notes gives you a brief information about the products and product limitation. If we have any issues, known issues, we'll get the details information in the release guides. So once we know the products, what we did is we went and deployed it on the phase-based phase. So if I don't need to provide a reason why we need to start the upgrade lifecycle by test, a stage followed by production environment. So we do our successful upgrades and we feel happy about it. But when we try to use them, it may fail miserably. So for that, what we did is we tested first in our sandbox environment and then followed by a test and at the stage and production. So before going to production is always a different. So we need to verify the performance. So our stage and production environment will not be as similar, but somewhat will be equivalent. So what we did is before going to production, we tested on our stage environment. So it will give you an approximate time or the issues which we are going to face in production. So what we did, so in a stage environment, we tried everything. So and one more thing before going to production, we need to keep in mind is the contingency plans, because production is always different. So we cannot go and directly upgrade to the production, right? So, and also we cannot give a longer downtime in our production. So what we did is in stage we checked the performance and followed by contingency plans. Once you completed all these steps, so go with the confidence and upgrade the production environments. Thank you.
How many people have a staging environment? How many people use the staging environment to test upgrades? Good. How many people test in production? That's a frightening number. So when we talk about upgrading vSphere and we talk about upgrading the entire platform, we have to do it in a phased approach. So we first have to look at the NSX manager and the controllers as the very first thing we want to upgrade. You know, if we go upgrade Virtual Center, then NSX can't talk to Virtual Center, and then you can't upgrade NSX because it can't talk to Virtual Center. You know, later on in the presentation, I have a long list of KB articles that you need to reference and look at. As you know, it talks about how to calculate upgrade times, how to, you know, which products to upgrade first and what order to upgrade the products. Second, we finally upgrade the Virtual Center. We upgrade the Platform Services Controller first, then we upgrade the Virtual Center, and then we start upgrading those third-party apps that integrate into our Virtual Center. So, you know, if we're using Veeam backups or if we're using Zerto data protection, right? We got to upgrade those so that they can talk to the new version of Virtual Center. And then we upgrade SRM, we upgrade vSphere replication to get them up to the right version so that they can start talking to the Virtual Center and the ESXi hosts and start replicating the traffic again. Finally, we get to the ESXi servers. You know, when we do the ESXi upgrades, it's quite important, and we've learned through trial and error that you have to upgrade the firmware and the drivers to keep with the HCL and to keep in a supported band with all of the vendors. Then we finally get to the guest operating systems, the virtual machine, VMware tools. You know, especially if you use something like SRM, VMware tools being current is extremely important so that you can upgrade or you can do a failover without many errors. And then finally, VMFS 6. That is a big improvement over the VMFS file system. So when you get all the way through your upgrades, that last piece of the puzzle is completing that VMFS 6 upgrade. Some of the, we call them considerations for upgrading. Really, they're things that have burned us in the past. They're things that, you know, we didn't quite have fully configured. So DNS and NTP. You know, if your PSCs are a little bit off sync with Active Directory and that your hosts are off sync with that, then you may not be able to get your host to talk to the virtual center after the upgrade. DNS with 6.0 was important. With 6.5, it's even more important. You have to have the forwards and backwards lookups. Break linked mode prior to any upgrade. If you're using the original 5.5 linked mode, that will save you a lot of heartache and a lot of pain and probably save you a call or two to GSS. Check compatibility matrix for the VMware solutions. One of the things that we always have a challenge with is if I want to upgrade to vSphere 6.5, I have to go to NSX 6.3.1 or 2. I don't remember which one, right? So we go reference the matrix to make sure that all of the products you choose and all the versions you choose are supported and work together. Display name retention. So especially if you do a migration from Windows Virtual Center to a Linux appliance, you're deploying a new Linux appliance, a new VM in the data center. So if you want to keep the original machine name, the display name inside of Virtual Center, not the domain name, the display name in Virtual Center, after the upgrade, you need to go back and change it to that name so that you keep your VMs in line. And then we verify the connectivity of plugins. It's very common to upgrade Virtual Center, and NSX just isn't talking to Virtual Center. NSX isn't broken. We just need to go in and hit the reconnect button or the edit button on the Virtual Center connection, save it, and it'll reconnect and start syncing again. So who plans to upgrade versus do a fresh deploy of 6.5? Upgrade? Right. Fresh deploy? Okay. You can shout out, is anyone, why a fresh deploy?
Upgrading 6.4.
It always works. Yeah, consolidation. Yeah. What was that? That's also a very good reason. And finally, we need to know our topology, right? We need to know when we're doing that upgrade of which hosts talk to which clusters, the DVS. It's almost like you should go to Virtual Center and export the config just so when after the upgrade, just make sure everything is still there. Now, we haven't had that issue, but it's always good to have that failback. So now we're going to talk about automating the upgrades. As I said earlier, the 6.5 is kind of the first release from VMware where we can fully automate the upgrade from end to end without having to log into a Windows box and click next 5 times, type in a password, click next, and type in another password, and go through that painstaking process to get to the end to realize you mistyped the password at the very start. So for NSX, we use curl and automation to upload the tar file. And then a few minutes later, we send a command to execute the upgrade package itself. NSX is extremely flexible. You can upload that tar file weeks before you do your upgrade, right? So it's a step that you're not going to have to do when it comes to upgrade time. And then when you're ready to do that upgrade, you execute that curl command there, and it'll start the upgrade, it'll restart the NSX manager, and then you're ready to go on to the next step, which if you remember is upgrading the PSCs. So the automation I was talking about, you need to modify a JSON file. On the ISO that comes off the website, in there's a template JSON file. It looks very similar to this, and we need to edit that file. We need to put in a host name, the username, password, deployment network. What network is this VM going to attach to? Then we need to, which data store is that VM going to live on once it's deployed? We have to give it a temporary IP address because it's going to suck the brains out of the old virtual center. Okay, so it needs a temporary IP address for about 30 minutes, and then it's going to assume the IP address of the original Windows Virtual Center or the original Linux appliances Virtual Center. We got to give it the original Virtual Center name, give it a username and password for the original Virtual Center so it can log in, give it the root password that you want, And then finally, at the very bottom, you can either agree or not agree to the Customer Experience Improvement Program. Once you have your JSON completed and ready, we execute the first command there, which is if we're doing a migrate, it's migrate. If we're doing upgrade, we type upgrade. There's also other switches there, like a verification switch, which will take your JSON file and validate that you have all your semicolons in the right spot. You didn't miss a quote somewhere. It'll also validate that your passwords are typed properly. Then there's a preparation one where it will actually go through and it'll make sure that all the agents are installed in the right spots. And finally, once we get ready to do it, we execute that command for the top one to upgrade the PSC. Go get a cup of coffee, come back in about 15 minutes, and your original PSC should be powered off. Your new PSC should be up and running and ready for login. And then we get onto the virtual center. We execute that command there. We run it, go get a larger cup of coffee. Maybe get another cup of coffee after that. And then come back, and your original virtual center should be powered off. The new virtual center should be stood up, standing there. All the hosts will have automatically reconnected to it. And you're ready to manage the environment again and proceed on to the vSphere host upgrades. Who uses Power CLI? Who uses Power CLI to automate Update Manager? That's how we upgrade our hosts. It's extremely easy to use the remediate inventory command, give it a target, a baseline, put in the switches to disable the cluster fault tolerance if you have it, to disable power management. And then for this one, you may want to go to bed and let that sleep and let it reboot and then come back. Because it will slowly, it'll go through each host one at a time and put maintenance mode, power off the host, upgrade the host, take it out of maintenance mode, do the next one down the line. So some challenges and lessons learned. This is where we get lots of questions and a lot of, you guys really did that? Yeah. We're not perfect. Sometimes we try things to try things, and sometimes we try things because we didn't read the owner's manual and we drove the car right off the cliff. So as I said earlier, vCenter in 6.5, extremely important that you have a reverse DNS lookup so that it can go find itself on the network, especially if you're going to be doing the upgrades. Those of you coming from a Windows Virtual Center, Windows is not case sensitive. You can have a SSL certificate in Windows with upper and lower case all the way throughout it. Linux cares. The appliance cares. So you need to have an SSL certificate on that Windows Virtual Center that is all lowercase. Otherwise, you're going to get a certificate name mismatch when you upgrade to the Linux appliance. Sometimes you may get a weird VIX error inside of Virtual Center where you're trying to do the upgrade or when you're trying to do that JSON validation step. What that simply means is your local administrator password expired on that original either Windows or the Linux appliance that you're coming from. So you just need to log into it, reset its password, reset the counter, whatever you do, and then you can start the upgrade again. After completion of the migration from like a Windows PSC to a Linux PSC, we've experienced it about 50-50 that the PSC won't talk to Active Directory anymore. So at that point, you just log into it with the administrator at vSphere.local and just rejoin it to Active Directory and it'll start working again. So some issues that we had on ESXi. The DVS, depending on which hardware vendor you have and which ISO you have from that hardware vendor, it's possible that the DVS, the host will upgrade, it'll reboot, it'll come back, it just won't be a part of the DVS anymore. So you just need to rejoin it to the DVS and life will go on. when you do the NSX at the very beginning, right, the very first step is we do NSX and we do the NSX controller. You also need to do the NSX VIBs on the host, okay? So even before we've touched the host, right, there's still vSphere 5.5 hosts or there's 6.0 hosts. We need to go into NSX Manager and resolve the cluster so that it pushes down the new VIBs. Because when I get to the step where I upgrade my host to 6.5, those new VIBs need to be there or the upgrade will fail because the VIBs aren't there. And then VMware Tools, if you have some older Linux machines, the way VMware Tools is compiled on those the newer version of Linux, or the newer version of VMware Tools on Linux, you may need to update your glibc version. There's a KB article there, but as I said, towards the end, I have a long list of KB articles that I expect everyone to memorize because there will be a test. ESXi upgrades will fail due to conflicting VIBs. This is where kind of the NSX Manager piece, right? If I don't install the new VIBs for NSX Manager, ESXi won't upgrade because it says, hey, this VIB's here, it only supports 5.5. I'm not going to do the upgrade because it would break whatever this feature is. Okay, so you got to work, if you have Veeam or if you have another product that utilizes VIBs on the servers, you got to go and make sure that you have those latest version of VIBs either built into the image or ready to go when you do the upgrade. One of our lessons learned is we always need more time to do upgrades. They're always longer than what we test. They're always longer than what we stage. And they're always a little bit different, right? Production, somebody called GSS 4 months ago and they forgot that they had enabled debug logging. And now I go do the upgrade and it takes a little bit longer because it's got to move those logs and things like that, right? So it just always takes more time than planned. The do not migrate historical records. Back in vSphere 6.0, we first introduced this when doing the upgrade, is you can check a box to disable moving things like performance data. You can remove the old task data. If you're using products like VROPS or if you're using Log Insight, all that data is elsewhere already, so there's really no reason to keep it. So if you exclude the data, in our testing, our upgrades went from about 9 hours on the older virtual centers to about 40 minutes. It's a huge savings of time if you can, survive without having historical performance data from 2 years ago. Hopefully it's already in VROPS or in Log Insight. And then automate where possible. We're a big shop of auto deploy. The reason being is if I need to upgrade a host, I create a new image, I apply it to the auto deploy server, and I reboot my hosts. And they're done. They're all the same version, they're all the same build, they all have the same VIBs, they all have the same configuration because auto deploy relies on host profiles to work. So I don't have any configuration drift inside of my environment when I'm using auto deploy because it's a reboot away from getting back to a known good state. Right? If I have some junior admin log into the system and make an ESXi box all wonky, I reboot my ESXi box and we're back to a working and good state. One of our lessons learned is to verify your monitoring. If you're coming from a Windows Virtual Center, your Windows monitoring is not going to work on the Linux appliance. Sorry, it's a different operating system. It's not going to work. If you're coming from a appliance, vSphere 6.0 introduced 11 VMDKs for you to monitor for disk space utilization on the appliance. 6.5 has the same number. There's also some new services in 6.5 that you need to monitor and look for, like the Update Manager service, which is now in 6.5. If you're using VROPS for host monitoring, make sure that VROPS is reconnected to the new virtual center. We've seen it where VROPS just kind of times out after an upgrade, so you need to go kick it and tell it to reconnect to that virtual center, and it'll reconnect and it'll start syncing those host data. Who's running VROPS today? Who's running less than 6.4? Who's running 6.5 the latest still, or is it 6.6? Who's running 6.6? Good. You want to make sure that your VROPS is at least 6.4 for vSphere 6.5. Otherwise, before that, you're going to get some weird wonky results. vSphere 6.5 introduces some new metrics, especially at the host level. One of those metrics is in ESX top, there's a power metric, so you can see how much power your host is using and how much power is being diverted to like a VM. So if you do charge back, now you can charge people for power as opposed to just CPU and RAM. Okay, and then test your existing scripts. You want to make sure that you're upgraded fully on your PowerShell. Right? You want to make sure you're fully upgraded on the Power CLI. You want to make sure that you're using the latest PyVMami if you use Python, or the latest SDK. Remember to test those scripts, because some of the functions may have changed. There may be new options when you upgrade Power CLI, especially with Update Manager or the monitoring of the VMs. Okay? Everyone have their phones ready. It's a small list of KB articles. But remember, sessions are recorded. Wonderful video camera back there. You can get these online. You can go look at them. We will tweet or blog those out later today from the VMware on VMware program. And with that, we have time for questions, comments, concerns, heckling from the back. So the question was, do we support the VCSA 6.0 Update 3 upgrading to 6.5? Yes, with the release of 6.5 Update 1, you can now upgrade off of all versions of 6.0. Yes? The question was, with automating Update Manager, when it hits a problem with the host, like it doesn't reboot properly or something, will it continue on or will it stop? It's going to depend on the flags you pass into the command. With Power CLI, there's that dash error action, and you can do it continue, and it'll leave that host broken in your cluster and continue on. Or you can do the error action of stop, and it will stop right there and just wait for you to come back and fix it. Yes? Using IPv6. So is there any other considerations when using IPv6? No, when you're using the JSON file, you can put the entire IPv6 in there. We haven't had any issues with IPv6. NSX is still, but nope. It will take the colons just fine. Yes?
So when upgrading, if you have multiple PSCs, what is the recommendation?
Are they in a PSC cluster, load balanced, or just multiple sites?
Just multiple sites. We have site comments.
Okay. So the question is, with the PSCs, are there any considerations with upgrading multiples at once? You want to snapshot the entire environment at once in a clean state, and then just start with your favorite data center, upgrade it, and upgrade the next one, but don't stop until you get them all upgraded. Yes?
The upgrade process
The question was, is the upgrade process, is it destructive to the Windows box? Do you guys,
Sorry?
is the upgrade process destructive to the Windows server?
Yeah, so basically it's shut down your Windows server when it is migrating the data off from your Windows, after it has migrated the data off from your Windows to the VCSA appliance, it will actually shut it down. I think that's the question you was asking. So it is shut it down, that's it.
There's an agent you install on the Windows box so it can suck the brains out of it. It
Yeah,
sucks
you
the
need to
database
install the
and stuff.
migration assistant tool. So using
And
that
then
you can.
it shuts down the Windows, it does nothing else. That's one of the great rollback features of the 6.5 migration process, is if it goes completely harebrained sideways, power off the thing that's smoking, the broken upgrade, and power on the Windows again. Okay. Depending on how far it got into your upgrade, your hosts may have connected to the new one, so you may just have to reconnect the host back to the old one, but all the data's still there, it'll still work, you may just have to reconnect.
And if you are retaining the same DNS name, so you need to rename it in the Windows box.
Okay. Yes? Yeah. Correct. You'll have to rejoin the domain because it will disjoin it so it can join the PSC to the domain. Yes?
The same applies for the 6.0 appliance.
Yes, the same applies for the 5.5 appliance, the 6.0 appliance, all of the major upgrades, so you can just power it back on and go back to where you were. Yes? I heard vSphere replication. So if you follow the upgrade process where you do vSphere replication, it will continue to, it can't talk to the new version. So when you power on that old version again, it'll just start talking to it. It'll think you rebooted Windows. Yes? The upgrade for Horizon? vCenter Horizon upgrades.
No, we don't deal with it.
We have a Horizon session.
You have to do 7.1, 7.2,
Okay. It was 7.25? 7.2. Yes, sir.
Yeah, for the SRM upgrade and the vSphere upgrade, you guys follow the particular order for SRM and the vSphere because weakness node and other thing that's become more complex to make sure.
So the question was, is for the SRM
SRM
upgrade, did we look at the witness node and everything and do those upgrades?
So if you see, there's a VMware KB article on that. What are the sequence that you need to follow to do the upgrades? So you can refer to that KB article. I think it was mentioned there in the KB details. So you need to just follow that sequence and then upgrade your wherever it suits best. See what are the rest of the products, the VMware solution that you're using, whether you need to upgrade them before the vSphere application or you need to upgrade vSphere application after that. So just follow that sequence.
So real quick before everyone disappears out of here, who's going to use the API to upgrade, or who's going to use the web client or the click next upgrade? API?
Yeah.
Web client, next. It's new, but I will tell you, it's one of the ways that the internal private cloud has been able to upgrade all of our hosts and all of that capacity is because we can automate it now, and we can build, a large profile and say, this capacity, go upgrade, here's all the JSON files, just go have fun, email me when it's done. It makes our life a lot easier. Yes?
For 6.0 with the embedded PSC, is
Okay.
there a path to break those out?
You have to complete the upgrade, and then you can deploy the external PSC, you join it to the same domain, point the virtual center to the external one, and then the embedded one is just, it's stopped being used. Yes?
Session on Monday, they mentioned that y'all are now recommended going back to the embedded PSC with some of the new study.
Yes. Yes. It depends on your use case. If you're trying to do multiple virtual centers talking to one PSC domain so you can have kind of that single pane of glass in the web client, you're going to want external. But if that's not in your use case, it is recommended, again, to go back to the embedded PSC for something coming. Yes?
Specific, operating for 5.5, operating 6.0.
So the question is there any specific issues when going from 5.5 to 6.5? Other than the stuff that we said, like DNS names, make sure you get forwards and backwards. SSL certificates are extremely important. So make sure that, all lowercase and things like that. Also, the way your third-party applications register to your virtual center are important. Right? We don't want to use IP addresses. We want to use FQDNs so they can pass certificates back and forth.
Yeah, and if you are using any third-party plugins like EMC PowerPath or Omar Backup Agent, we need to upgrade first that and then go to the vSphere 6.5.
One more thing, if you're going from 5.5 to 6.5 and you are using the link mode, right? You need to break the link mode before proceeding with the 6.5 upgrade.
Did you run into any issues with the realize automation after the upgrade?
So the question is, do we run into issues with vCloud Director or vRealize Automation after the upgrade? The answer is, as long as we had it upgraded before, we kind of take this giant maintenance window of a downtime and keep everybody out of the system so we can do it. But once we get everything to the right target version, there was no issues. Yes? So the question is, do we have plans to line up support to take the influx of calls for everyone, because almost everyone in the room raised their hand when we were doing an upgrade. The answer is, I don't know the answer to that one.
Yes, please.
We're currently on 6.0 Windows Virtual Center with external PSC, and we want to upgrade or migrate actually to 6.5 with embedded PSC. I understand that's not a possible thing to do with the current migration. There is a scripting method. Is there any plans for VMware to have some sort of a method to go back in and do that easily without going through all the scripting?
There is, whenever that next thing comes, vSphere.next as I called it earlier, there will be a way to get that back.
So if we were to go ahead and migrate and go in with external PSCs, you believe that there's going to be in the future some way for us to pull that back in and make it embedded without having to rebuild?
Correct. We don't like to rebuild it as much as you guys. It's painful to rebuild. Yes?
I'm on Windows also.
Yes.
External SQL Server. My main thing is that we set the ERP. That forces me to use an external PSC.
Yes. So the question was, we have Windows with an external SQL Server, and we need to be able to DR the server. So the question is, do we have to have an external PSC? It's going to depend on your use case. If, because SRM, the two virtual centers do not have to be in the same PSC domain. They can be in separate domains and still work. So from that aspect, you don't need an external PSC to talk to them. So you could leave it as an embedded PSC if that's what you have today.
Yeah.
What's the best way to deal with 5.5 host profiles that I don't believe are compatible with 6.5 after migration?
So so the question was, is host profiles with 5.5, they're not compatible with 6.5 after the upgrade, so how do you deal with that? The way I'd recommend it is you take a host, get it back to your standard, make sure all your new changes are in there, and then just capture the host profile back off of that host and apply it to your other hosts.
The problem is I've got a lot of vCenters, so an automated way to CLI, export the 5.5, maybe re-import it in 6.5.
There's new features that are missing out of that 6.5 export that you could try it. I don't know if it will import. What we do though is we'll just, we use Power CLI or Ruby or PyVMami to automate that host profile capture piece so that we don't have to go in there and click, right? So that we can do it all automatically. Yes, sir.
If we have a stretched network between two physical geographic locations regarding the vCenter HA, can I put the mirror copy on a different data center?
Yes, there is a latency requirement. Yeah, it's the same latency requirement from Virtual Center to an ESXi host. So you can put it wherever you wanted to, and it'll keep it synced.
So it requires actually you should have minimum like less than 10 milliseconds of
10 milliseconds.
latency. Yeah.
Thank you.
If it is more than that, you cannot. It's a recommended, so it may work, but it's the recommended.
Yeah.
You should have less than 10 milliseconds.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. The question was, is if I have the same SSO domain, can I upgrade to have multiple versions of 6.0 and 6.5? Yeah. The recommended thing from GSS and R&D would be to upgrade as soon as possible to get them both to 6.5. Your definition of as soon as possible and my definition are going to be different. So it'll work. I wouldn't make drastic changes in your environment while you're doing that, but if it's like a weekend 1, weekend 2 kind of thing, that shouldn't be a problem. Any other questions? Emotional outbursts? Yes?
Now that all the management is integrated into the vCenter, can you actually migrate all our baselines like the ISOs and the
Yes, it does. So the question was, is now that Update Manager is integrated with the Virtual Center appliance, will it migrate all of the baselines and the ISOs into the new one? And the answer is yes, it will do that. Yes, sir. So the question is he has multiple 5.5 SSO domains that are very different, and he wants to get using 6.5 enhanced link mode, which requires a single SSO domain. Is there an easy way to migrate it without doing a redeploy?
So basically what I understand is that if you are already running in link mode, so with 6.0 you got the enhanced link mode. So you need to break it actually before you migrate, and once you're migrating you can actually join the enhanced link mode later on. So directly you're gonna do.
Yeah. So I would say probably best to redeploy, maybe even make a new PSC domain and move everybody into it as brand new.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're running 5.5. We have 4 virtual sensors, 2 per site, with embedded SSOs in all of them. So I'm a bit confused now. If I want to go to 6.5, do I extract that thing out and make the platform storage controller out of it per site, and then be really upset with myself? Why on earth did I go with external one, since you're now saying it should be embedded?
Yeah.
Like, what do I do?
The current recommendation would be to leave them embedded and just upgrade as embedded.
But I'm not going to have enhanced link mode, correct?
Correct. Yeah. You will lose the
So that
enhanced.
single pane of glass is going to go away because
Yeah.
of that. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So we have SRM 5.5 with vCenter 5.5, and they're embedded as well, and they are linked mode. So is there any special considerations for that far of an upgrade for the SRM, for example, as well as we'd like to make them external? So we've tested that in the past, and I think you have to break them out on 5.5 to new SSO external nodes and then upgrade them. So I think we have to repoint SRM probably and stuff as well.
So like SRM is something like, as I mentioned, there's a sequence. So if you're doing through the sequence, you just need to upgrade the SRM first. So see what is the path. There's we have interoperability matrix. So see if going from your version to that version, if it is supported or not. So that SSO and SRM is a totally different thing for you. Right. So SRM is something you will do the upgrade before you going for your PSC, from SSO to PSC or your vCenter server.
Would it be recommended to break out SSO before the SRM upgrade, or does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter actually. So if you're breaking before and after, it doesn't make. But it's always a better approach when you're starting the upgrade. Do the things like whatever the break fix you want to do it before, and then start with the upgrade process.
Okay. And then breaking linked mode, that won't reset any SRM configurations or anything, right?
No.
Okay.
So, I mean, just following up on that question, maybe I'm not following. So, we also have SRM. So, I go ahead, I take my SSO, I externalize the platform service controller now. So, I do the first step of upgrade SSO to platform storage controller. I do the virtual center upgrade, I do all that. When do I actually repoint the SRM, my old SRM, to point to the new platform storage controller? When do I do that? At what point?
It's not going to matter if you do it before or after.
Okay.
Because it's the same SSO domain. You're just changing what it talks to. You know, it's like changing which Active Directory server Cloud
Okay,
Director
got
talks
it.
to.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. With no other questions, everyone make sure you fill out your surveys. Those are very important. That's how we get to come back next year or how we get to stay home next year. I want to come back and do it again. But we're going to talk about vSphere 6.
Thank you.